Eva Mitchell wiped sweat from her brow as she completed another shift at the neighborhood supermarket's cash register. Her uniform smock was slightly threadbare, yet she wore it with pride, a symbol of her diligence and perseverance. Eva had worked tirelessly for months, saving every spare penny for a night at the exclusive Ashland Safari Lodge. It was a birthday wish for her late mother, who had always dreamed of seeing Africa's wildlife up close. Now, at last, Eva was on her way. Arriving at the lodge, she hesitated, taking in the opulence around her. Her thrift store dress felt inadequate among the flowing silks and tailored suits of the sophisticated guests checking in. The air was filled with the scent of fresh white lilies, and the lobby gleamed under golden chandeliers, shimmering with a grandeur she'd never known. Clutching an old plastic tote as her makeshift purse, Eva bravely stepped forward towards the marble-fronted reception desk where a sharply dressed concierge stood, exuding an air of patronizing superiority. "Excuse me," she began, nervously glancing around, trying to absorb the splendor surrounding her. "Could you tell me how much, the safari walk thing is?" The concierge peered at her over his wire-rimmed glasses and let out a derisive snort. His voice carried across the lobby, drawing the attention of other guests. "Oh, isn't that quaint?" he sneered with a glance at her attire. "Are you sure you can afford it?" Laughter echoed around her, mingling with the muted conversations of well-dressed patrons. The world seemed to close in on Eva, the laughter slicing through her confidence like a blade. In that moment, she stood frozen in the glamorous chaos, feeling small and humiliated, wondering if she'd ever truly belong. Eva's heart was heavy as she stumbled out of the lodge, the crisp, manicured lawns outside a stark contrast to the turmoil within her. She sat down on a weathered wooden bench, hidden beneath the shade of a sprawling acacia tree, where the sounds of distant safari drums mingled with the rustling of leaves. Here, away from the penetrating judgment of the lodge's lobby, she allowed herself to breathe. Around her, guests strolled with ease, but Eva felt every whisper and sidelong glance from those who had witnessed her earlier humiliation. Despite the morning sun casting gentle shadows across her face, she felt exposed and raw, like a nerve laid bare. Some guests had smirked openly, their condescending looks mingling with muted laughter, while others had turned away uncomfortably, unwilling to intervene or show compassion for someone they deemed different. As she sat, Eva couldn't shake the disbelief and embarrassment that cast a pall over her dream trip. Her thoughts were a torrent, but amidst the chaos, vivid memories surfaced, each tinged with the muted colors of her past. Days at the supermarket, ringing up groceries with a smile she didn't always feel, flashed by. She remembered the long hours spent on her feet, the blare of fluorescent lights, and the jangle of cash in the till, every second a step closer to this one trip, this brief escape. Her sacrifices had been numerous and varied. For months, she skipped lunches, instead sipping water to curb her hunger. In the evenings, she clipped coupons and budgeted meticulously, choosing not to dine out with friends or indulge in small luxuries, like the birthday dinner she'd postponed for herself. These weren't just frugal choices, they were acts of survival, allowing her to carve out enough for this one moment of indulgence. A moment that was meant to bring her closer to her mother's dream, now tainted by public scorn. Her resolve, built from years of challenges, felt fragile, like a facade crumbling under the weight of disappointment. The reason she'd chosen this particular lodge spun through her thoughts, a recommendation from her doctor who had encouraged a holiday in nature to ease her asthma. Still more than that, in each guided tour she'd imagined her mother's face beside hers, sharing in the adventure and awe. This trip was supposed to be a celebration of life, a gateway to healing after enduring grief. The thing that struck her most of all, that augmented the hurt, was how a moment, so small a gesture, could unravel all fatigue of her lifetime of resilience. In that cruel, public slight, the pain lay not just in the concierge's words, but in the echoes of scarcity from her past, working long hours, caring for her ailing mother, and finding strength in places others took for granted. Her mind lingered back to her mother's soft, encouraging voice from years gone by, telling her, "Eva, we're richer than we think. Rich in kindness, rich in dreams." This had been the mantra that got her through, and it was what she held on to now, despite the aching throb of humiliation that threatened to unmake her. Yet sitting there, she found a renewed sense of purpose rising, surging quietly yet insistently through her. She wasn't just stepping away from a disappointing encounter, she was confronting the space between her world and theirs, the injustice of it burning brighter after having tasted both. She would, somehow, move beyond this moment, and her dreams, both for herself and her mother, wouldn't be diminished to that sneering concierge's laughter or any onlooking bystander's judgment. Eva's thoughts wound around how deeply meaningful this trip had initially been to her, transforming from a personal gift into a fight for dignity. While she struggled with sorrow and disappointment, a flicker of resolve had formed among the remnants of her thwarted plan. Resilience was an old companion, firmly rooted within her being, waiting for another chance to unfurl its strength. As her breathing steadied amidst the aromatic grasses, she acknowledged with quiet assertion that this ordeal didn't need to define the rest of her life. It could be a stone on the path to something greater, a story of growth, independence, and shaking the dust off her dreams, even if they had been momentarily dampened. She could find a way to still honor her mother, take the lessons from this wound, and heal through it. Eva didn't know it then, but the nightmare unfolding from this failed celebration would cascade onwards, wrapping around the lives of others, broadening its impact far beyond her grief-stricken reflection. On this bench, she could sense a shifting, a tiny tremor of change in how she saw herself, her strength burgeoned from suffering. As she brushed the dirt from her heels and prepared to press on forward, Eva fortified herself against hopelessness, vowing to cherish the smallness of another simple dream, despite every luxury withheld. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky with strokes of amber and rose, Eva lifted herself from the bench, feeling the heaviness in her heart begin to lighten, if only just a bit. The tranquility of the lodge's surroundings, tufts of golden grasses swaying in warm breezes, the distant murmur of the savannah, gently reminded her of the resilience she had always possessed. Feeling determined to continue her day, Eva set off along the gravel path leading away from the main lodge building. Her steps were steady as she took in more of the serene landscape, a balm to her earlier humiliation. As she quietly composed herself, she noticed a side trail rarely used, marked staff access only, partially concealed by dense, lush foliage that seemed to clutch at the shadows. Curiosity tugged at her, and Eva veered towards the path, partially out of a desire to linger in the natural beauty before returning to her ordinary life, partially haunted by the morning's events. As she walked in the growing dusk, something caught her attention, a door almost entirely enshrouded by growing vines, flaking paint barely visible in the dim light. It had a worn sign overhead, "Emergency Exit," with a rusted chain wrapped haphazardly around the handle, holding it shut. She halted, surprise rippling through her. The sight was jarring against the pristine, luxe image the lodge sought to project. A piece of paper was haphazardly taped to the door, its edges already curling under the heat. "Do not open. Management orders." Her stomach twisted at the implications. Beyond the worn door, she imagined a worst-case scenario of guests and staff with no escape, trapped by negligence hidden behind glamour's facade. Eva took out her phone and snapped a few photos of the door, the unwelcome obstruction calling out to her sense of justice. It was evidence of safety oversight, far graver than her personal embarrassment had been. Nearby, 2 lodge staff members were huddled together, their voices hushed like a breeze through rigid grass. "Didn't we report this months ago?" one cleaner murmured, a tone of worry draping their words. "Yeah, but management seems to think a rusty chain is better than bad PR," returned another with a resigned shake of their head. Their disquiet fed Eva's resolve further. This small detail, which the lodge chose to conceal rather than fix, was not merely a problem, it was symbolic of how people often felt steamrolled by image over substance, where human safety became collateral in the pursuit of appearance. Eva's heart beat with renewed determination. She knew this couldn't remain unknown. Returning narrowly to the main gravel path, she paused by a small guest information board displaying brochures and maps, one already wilting from day-long sun exposure. She collected a leaflet detailing the lodge's environmental commitments and customer service standards, lines ironically contrasting with the fire hazard she'd just witnessed. With every step towards town on the beaten track, new ideas formed in her mind on what she could do. Each tree she passed seemed a quiet keeper of stories untold, stories of those who may have experienced their own discomfort yet never spoke aloud. She thought back to the quiet librarian who had shared local resources with her during a lull at the grocery store. She had a journalist friend renowned for fair and passionate consumer advocacy. Seized by the comfort of inspiration, Eva carefully composed an email. She attached the photographs she'd taken and detailed her account, how the lodge's allure masked a deeper, troubling lack of safety that gravely undermined not just her own experience, but standards everywhere. It wasn't just about her shaming now. Further inspection here was vital to prevent potential recklessness. As she walked home beneath a velvet sky, stars slowly bursting into existence above, Eva recounted her day in its complexity. What erupted as a ruinous event now lent clarity and purpose. One simple choice on her part had brought forth awareness. She anticipated the email's journey with cautious hope, little knowing the ripples it would send forth, ripples that would connect stranger to stranger, weighted by shared humanity. Despite not knowing how it might unfold, Eva's heart felt lighter than it had in years. Tonight, she penned not just for her own catharsis, but as part of an unbroken chain seeking justice's embrace. Her small act of empowerment wouldn't just bolster her internal compass, it might very well recalibrate the compass of others who were now given space in which to look beyond the polished, luxe doors of Ashland Safari Lodge toward something more sincere and earnest. In this, Eva discovered that heroism lay not in terms of grandeur, but within our abilities to see right from wrong, and to act, however quietly, as faithful witnesses in hope of sparking change. The email Eva sent with photos attached didn't linger unnoticed in the journalist's inbox. James Corrigan, known for his hard-hitting consumer advocacy columns, was immediately struck by the stark reality depicted. The vivid images and earnest tone of Eva's account were undeniable and compelling. A story began to unfold in James's mind, a tale that transcended one woman's experience and touched on larger issues of safety, class divide, and negligence masquerading as exclusivity. By morning, after validating the claims with quick and quiet groundwork, interviews with local workers, checking previous reports on similar incongruities, James had penned an exposé that was both empathetic and incendiary. Titled "Behind Ashland Safari Lodge's Facade, a Public Safety Time Bomb," the article illuminated the stark contrast between the lodge's public image and the hidden truths Eva uncovered. It went live on the publication's website, shared quickly across social media. The reaction was swift and furious. It was as if James had tapped into a reservoir of public frustration. Readers, angered by the apparent disregard for guest safety and dignity, took to online platforms. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook lit up with shared posts, comments, and retweets. The hashtags #Ashland Safety Scandal, #Eva Sparks Change, and #Luxury on Trial trended in record time. People weren't just expressing outrage. They shared their own stories of being slighted or witnessing negligence at supposedly elite establishments. In the ensuing days, local news channels echoed the expose, amplifying the story as part of their headlines. Guests who had stayed at the lodge during Eva's visit spoke out. Some recounted unpleasant incidents and unreported dissatisfactions with the lodge. Their accounts corroborated much of what Eva initially described, adding more weight to the growing scrutiny. Ashland Safari Lodge, caught off guard by the rapid escalation, scrambled to put forward a coherent public response. Their first statement, an attempt at a bland apology mixed with vague promises of reviewing policies, backfired spectacularly, coming across as insincere and dismissive. The public demanded concrete action, not hollow words. Authorities, pressured by both public outrage and solid journalistic evidence, launched an official investigation. Inspectors descended upon Ashland Lodge, their surprise visit adding to the already mounting tension. What they uncovered was more damning than expected: unsafe exits, inadequate emergency training, and numerous other overlooked violations painted a picture of neglect compounded by systemic mismanagement. The fallout was immediate. The lodge was fined heavily and handed a temporary closure notice until all safety concerns could be addressed. By legally binding orders, it was required to overhaul its safety protocols before resuming operations. The lodge's management board, seeking damage control, suspended several key personnel, including the concierge who had derided Eva publicly. They publicly criticized the employee's conduct, pinning some of the blame for their ordeal on a lack of customer service sensitivity at an individual level, though the broader audience saw through this attempt at deflection. Simultaneously, positive reactions streamed towards Eva from various quarters. Her email's dramatic impact had prompted other workers, simple folks like her, and visitors to come forward, recounting similar experiences undermined by elitist attitudes at various luxury locations. It was a heartening yet strange sensation for Eva, realizing that her quiet discomfort and courage had resonated so widely. In her neighborhood, and among close acquaintance circles, she received newfound respect and admiration. Many expressed gratitude for her brave stand, insisting her actions lent voice to their own past invisibility and silent endurance. Some offered heartfelt messages, others support in kind. A local cafe owner insisted she come by for free coffee forever, as a token of solidarity. Community members actively rallied around her, helping organize means to solicit broader awareness for equal treatment across service industries. Eva, initially overwhelmed by this outpouring, gradually embraced the encouragement that reaffirmed her sense of self-worth and dignity. James Corrigan followed up on the story with further columns, tracking both the investigation's results and the broader societal conversation it sparked. He saw Eva's story as a springboard for fundamental discussions about consumer rights and respect within hospitality, a reminder that dignity wasn't tied to wealth or status. Eva and James corresponded once more. Their initial professional exchange blossomed over time into one of mutual respect and evolving friendship, motivated by shared values in seeing justice done. The swell of change extended even further. Advocacy groups cited Eva's story as indicative of needed reforms, both legally and ethically, particularly in tourism and hospitality industries. As various establishments proactively adjusted policies to prevent potential backlash or align with evolved regulations, an odd sense of equilibrium began seeping across the landscape of luxury service. Though the initial firestorm abated over weeks, Eva sensed a lasting shift had emerged, affecting how people perceived their power to effect change, one small truth at a time. That gentle ripple, starting from the dusty path of a safari lodge to the hearts of countless people, signaled something invaluable, a rekindling of communal values and renewed emphasis on compassing where people encountered and understood, rather than divided by perceived stature. For Eva, it meant claiming back the autonomy stripped momentarily by condescension, buoyed by allied hopes looking to kindlier futures made more just for those willing to seek it. Several weeks had passed since the frenzy of the Ashland Safari Lodge scandal. Life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy for Eva Mitchell, yet she felt forever changed by her experience and newfound role as an unwitting catalyst for change. The path she now walked daily, between her modest apartment and the neighborhood supermarket where she worked, felt different, a little lighter, as if each step was fueled by an inner confidence that had previously lain dormant. It was a regular afternoon when Eva returned to check out groceries at the supermarket, greeting customers with her typical warmth. Though her simple uniform remained the same, reflective of a diligent worker, something perceptibly transformative followed her presence, an assertive grace cultivated from her involvement in recent events. Patrons recognized her both from their frequent visits, and, more recently, from local news segments. Many whispered words of encouragement as they collected their change, nodding respectfully. Eva's savings, once depleted by her ill-fated lodge visit, had begun to rebuild. Yet, she felt no rush for another luxurious escapade. For her, satisfaction now derived not from material splurges but through savoring small joys, a warm pastry from the local bakery, a leisurely stroll through the park, with its tapestry of leafy canopies. While sitting in her small but comfortable kitchen one quiet evening, Eva diligently sipped a steaming cup of chamomile tea. Softly playing in the background was a radio talk show featuring a discussion on consumer rights inspired by Eva's story. The segment recounted the ripple effect her email had initiated, growing into broader advocacy that illuminated the unchecked privileges often afforded to the powerful. Across town, Ashland Safari Lodge remained uninhabited, a testament to the ongoing renovations required by the enforced safety compliance. News reports announced a potential shift in its ownership as those previously accountable sought to repair credibility and redefine their business ethos. Outside the lodge, a sign catered to transparency, publicly displaying future commitments to improved safety measures and inclusivity. The community's outreach to Eva didn't stop at recognition, it grew into opportunities. She began receiving invitations to participate in panels discussing fair treatment and equality within service industries. Though her instinct was initially to shy away from the spotlight, those gentle reminders of communal support inspired her to accept. Sharing her story on these platforms felt like planting seeds, each testimony a call-out for balance and empathy. Eva gained new routine, preparing words that articulated her experience while celebrating resilience. She crafted these speeches with care, mindful of authenticity balancing with potential inspiration. At times she felt her journey was a voice among many, but consistently she recalled her mother's wisdom about grace in adversity, a guiding light amidst shadows. One afternoon, a letter arrived, elegantly sealed with a government agency's insignia. As she read the letter's gracious prose, offering sincere thanks for her courage and inviting her to collaborate on enhancing consumer rights awareness nationally, a swell of growth pulsed within her chest. It was the latest in quiet affirmations that her intersections with justice and conviction could remain meaningful. Though the lodge had earlier sent a formal apology with offers of restitution, inauthentic gestures echoing its culture at committee level, Eva chose neither to linger on the past nor breathe resentment. Grace was her chosen companion, keeping her focused and looking onward towards quieter accomplishments shared with those around her. Increasingly, Eva valued simplicity in daily interactions of friendship and work. Her gatherings with friends, once routine, now carried light and laughter, each shared moment infused by her rekindled joy and gratitude for renewed perspective. Every shopping spree was punctuated by jokes over artisanal teas, punctuated with rich peals of community and new understanding. Eva found herself pausing on her way home one evening, captivated by the polished facade of her earlier dreams. Ashland Lodge stood in resolute silence, bearing new telltale signs, commitment to integrity displayed on banners for passers-by's consideration. Breathing deeply, Eva turned her back to those stone walls, a quiet reminder of her journey towards claiming dignity through courage and persistence. As she walked away from the past with determination, she felt aligned within herself. Her days, once regimented by work and solitude, unfolded into chapters of meaningfulness threaded by acts seemingly simple, yet always genuine. Anxiety, once her constant companion, surrendered to moments of ebullient optimism, an optimism that reflective calm invited. Her final months at the supermarket breezed by. During quiet moments between customers, she daydreams about future travels molded not by opulence, but by authentic exploration, places evoking wonderment while bridging past and present. The twilight of another tranquil day arrived, bathing Eva's humble abode in warming shades. As she gathered with friends for a mellow evening filled with shared stories and laughter, she felt a true kinship, a connection imbued by shared journeys, each offering enriching perspective over woven lives. Here, beyond any facade of affluence, Eva Mitchell embraced the profound joy nestled within simplicity. Cradling her teacup close, she stared into the horizon warmed by hope. Hers was a life reclaimed through strength, dignity forged from time unfurling its potential boundless alongside her unyielding spirit. And woven between these threads sat Eva's proud legacy, a tale of hidden courage uplifted, painted amongst a tapestry of countless others, ever enduring and beautifully shared.